What's up, guys? Today I built the biggest Minecraft farm in history. This one, yeah, we're not doing that here. Today I'm building the smallest possible farms in Minecraft. Let's see how small we can go. Minecraft farms are huge, but what if I told you some of them can fit in just a few blocks? Today I'm building and testing the smallest possible farms in Minecraft and seeing if they're actually worth using. Alright, for this video, I've set up a couple challenge rules. Number 1, the farms must be fully automatic. That means no interaction with the player, you just have to collect the goods. Number 2, it must be considered small in both area as well as block count, which means it has to have the smallest footprint as well as using the fewest amount of blocks possible. Alright, behind me are 10 of the smallest possible farms I could come up with on my own. These were the ones I tinkered with a lot, and this video would have been done much sooner, but I kept creating smaller and smaller farms as I went. So let's get into the first one. Alright, whilst looking at the items and the block count of each of these farms here, I'm going to have a little demo on the top right of the screen just to show you how I built each of these farms, just so you can see the order of the blocks you have to place and any little tricks you need to know to get things in the right spot. Let's get into it. Alright, first up, a bamboo farm, standing at 1 by 4 by 3. The measurements are width by height by depth as you're looking at the front of the build here. So you can see it's 1 wide, 4 tall, and 3 deep. So this one's very basic. You just need a block that the bamboo can grow on. Doesn't need to be mud. Then you have to get your cart on it. So it has to be like this, because if you have your bamboo like this, it's collidable and the minecart's just going to sit on top of it. So if you keep it as a sprout, break this block, and now it can grow nicely through it. When it grows up to the third block, the observer will observe it, send a signal, power the piston, break it, and hopefully it lands into your minecart. If you have walls on here, you'll lose none, or if you can just shove it down into the ground, just use the ground as the walls, that'll make it a little bit more efficient. But as you can see, it's quite a good farm for the amount of blocks needed. Here are the blocks in here, so the block to grow it on, your cart, bamboo, observer piston, bit of redstone, and then the one block behind it. Alright, next up is a sugarcane farm, very similar to my bamboo farm here, same dimensions of 1 by 4 by 3, with more items because you need to water the sugarcane for it to actually grow. I used the waterlogged leaf block just so that you could see it. If you just lower this whole farm down by 1, you can have the water in the ground, forget the leaf block. And the nice thing about the sugarcane opposed to the bamboo, you don't have to worry about it colliding with the hopper minecart when you drop it on it, because it has no collision, unlike the bamboo when it's in this stage. Now the blocks for it are very similar. You don't need the leaf block, but you can add it if you want it just up in the air, and then the water won't spill out like a slab or a stair. Alright, now onto my crop farm. So this one is a 2 by 3 by 1. I'm excluding these walls here because you can just sink it into the ground and you won't even need them. But for this one, the order which you build it is going to be very important. So if you want to build this one, make sure to pay attention to the little demo in the top right, because the order in which you place the blocks is important, because the villager here has to come after the minecart, and you have to be careful not to destroy the tilled soil here, otherwise you'll have to start all over again, remove everything, till the soil, carrot, minecart, and then villager all over again. So you have your composter to make sure that he's a farmer, a little bit of light so it keeps growing even in the night, and then your water for the till. If you lower it down, you don't actually need this, so it's just for the water. Here are all your blocks, very simple, just need your one villager, the farm you want to make with carrot, potato, whatever. It's probably best to use one of the ones that doesn't create a seed like beetroot and wheat, just because it'll fill up the minecart much quicker. Nice thing about this one is if you click in this corner, you can actually get to the hopper minecart without having to bring anything else anywhere, just because the tilled land is less than a block tall and you can get into that gap there. Alright, now on to our melon and pumpkin farm. Either one works. Standing at 1 by 4 by 4, nice and small. Here we have our hopper minecart on the stem of the seeds, which is either your pumpkin or your melon. Once it grows over onto this block, it's going to send a signal through our observer up to a bit of redstone, down to here. Piston's going to break it, send it into our hopper. You see it collects both depending on which one you want. And then after that, you need your water to make sure it's stayed stilled. And you want to make sure there's no blocks here or here for the pumpkin or melon to grow. You only want it growing here so that it can actually break it. I guess if you were to make it long on both sides and have a piston over here and here as well pointing in, Then you could have it bigger, but we want small farms. Here's your block count. So very simple. You need a rail to place it, but then you can remove the rail and reuse it for other farms. You need your farmland and then a block for your farmland to grow on. Water, leaves not needed, just in case if you wanted to build it up one like this. And that is this farm. All right, these next two farms are very similar, but they create two different items, so I'm going to consider them individual. First up is a honey farm. So sitting at 1 by 4 by 6, we have our little bee in here with his flower on top of a grass block or whatever you can put a flower on. We have our beehive with a hopper pulling out from the bottom into our storage chest. Up here we have a dispenser full of glass bottles and a comparator reading our honey farm or the bee nest. Now, it's going through and you can see I've got a little resource packs which tells me how much power is on each of these redstone bits. Now you need this beehive or the bee nest to be full of honey, so reading off of a 5 signal. So once it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you can actually use the dispenser. Any less and it'll start messing up and sending regular empty bottles through here. Next is very similar, but it's the honeycomb farm at 1 by 3 by 4, which is much more simple because you don't actually need the length. Anytime you get even one piece of honey in the beehive, it's going to detect that, send it through, and just immediately trigger this. Oop, didn't mean to do that, but it's going to bring it through, and then you get your honeycomb through. Here are the two blocks. So as you can see here, this one's a little bit more complicated, and it does need this glass because you need for the redstone signal to go up and over. That's how I made it so compact. If you want, you can just spiral it up, but it needs to be 5 pieces of redstone into your dropper or dispenser. Now this one, very much similar, but much easier, doesn't need quite as many blocks, and uses less redstone as well. All right, next is a mushroom farm. Now this one is a little bit of a slow burner because it can take from 20 minutes to 40 minutes for a single mushroom to grow. As you can see here, I've left this world on for a long time and I've only gotten 2 mushrooms. So this is obviously not the best way of gathering these. Probably just better to bone meal and then break the large mushroom, but we're going for small farms. So sitting at 1 by 3 by 4, very simple. We're using mycelium because as you can see, light level doesn't matter on mycelium. It'll grow no matter what. If you use grass or dirt, you'll have to put it underground or build a cave around it so that it has no light level. Because without the mycelium, it needs to be light level 12 or lower for it to actually grow. Now, for this one, it's very simple. All you need is when it grows on here, you're going to get your signal from here, and it's going to kind of break this. It's going to do a little weird thing. Watch. So it sends like a no-tick delay to this and triggers it twice, which breaks it by pulling back the mycelium, and it doesn't actually destroy it because it's only in there for a fraction of a second. And then because we have our hopper below sitting on a slab, just so it's slightly taller, usually you can put it right below, but that's only if it's something like a smaller block like a farm block or maybe some mud. But since it's a full block here, you need to kind of shove it in the middle here. You can actually use the piston to push it back onto here, and then it just kind of works. Nice and simple. Not a lot of redstone. So here's your blocks, nice and simple, kind of in the right place. You'll need the rail to place it on top, but then the rail is going to be destroyed. You need your either red or brown mushroom, the one to grow it on, observer, and your piston. All right, here we are on a wool farm at 1 by 2 by 4. Very simple here. All you need is a sheep with a little hopper minecart right inside of him. You need your bit of grass for him to eat, and then one beside it so that it can replenish it no matter what. Now, it's obviously going to grab from these ones down here, but if this ground was like stone or something, you'd need one for it to grow. Sheeps are actually taller than 1 block, so you don't need to cover it in all directions, just enough like this. Now, this observer is going to read when this turns into dirt, when this guy eats it. It's going to send a signal here. You can't have glass here. You need a solid block so that it hits in here, powers above it. You're actually going to see it here. And then it's going to power a dispenser with shears, which is going to shear them. It's going to go into our hopper. And then once this grows back, we can actually just replace it. He's going to eat, and it's going to just keep repeating over and over. I say this because on other farms, like over here, we have the observer on top of the piston because the observer outputs the signal out back, which means it was okay to have it like this because then this powers this. But on this one, it's the opposite way around, so you need it to be a solid block so it powers this block, which powers this redstone, which powers the dispenser. Now here are your blocks. Nice and simple, 2 pieces of grass or dirt in a grass, just so it can keep growing, your sheep, all the shears, your hopper, a block, and a bit of redstone. All right, now this one is a little bit different because I've got a bunch of different variations I designed. First up, we're just going to talk about the basic kelp farm or XP farm. So it's 1x5x4 on the basic design. So all it does is it has this kelp. As it grows up, it's very similar to my sugarcane and bamboo. As it grows, it sends a signal, powers the piston, and then it breaks it. The water drops it down into our hopper, into our furnace. Now, for this design, you need to power it yourself. So you need to grab a bit of coal, power it, and then when you get the dry kelp out, it's going to give you a bit of XP. So that's where the XP part comes from. Now for this one, this is just the block palette. Pause if you want to see that. But then we go to these different variations. So this first one, I hooked up a bamboo farm to power it automatically. But the problem is, not enough fuel points. You actually need 4 pieces of bamboo sticks to power one thing in a furnace. So this one, disqualified. Next up, I raised it a little bit. So now this one actually harvests 4 bamboo each time, but it's a little bit too bulky. It uses a bit of piston, redstone. Once this goes off, it sends a signal down. Way too bulky, not really needed for a small farm. But it does drop 4, so it can power it if this is what you're looking for. Next up is using a bit of crafting. So this one uses an auto crafter, creates it into the block, and then it places the block of bamboo like this into here. Now, for this one, I thought I needed to have the power of 9 going into this one, reading it so that it would only craft the 9. But the thing is, the only other thing bamboo can craft is a stick like this. But with the crafters, they go like this, 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 and it goes like this. So no matter what, it's not going to craft anything until it's full. So for this one, I just have a nice little observer clock. So it's just going to power nonstop. But this one is actually slightly different because it does the crafter and then it does it into the wood, the planks itself. The problem is it creates the bamboo way faster than the kelp grows, so you're just going to have so much of this and then it's just going to throw it onto the floor. You're going to waste a bunch. So then I came up with my final design, which is good, but needs to be a little bit optimized. As you can see here, it's very similar on the observer clock. It's just going to go back and forth constantly like that, powering it, letting these guys in, and then once it's full, it's going to put it into here and it's going to craft or smelt one of them. Now it's going to be a little not optimized because you might need like 2 kelp farms per 1 bamboo, but this is a good kind of middle ground between all of them. All right, and our final farm of the day, an iron farm. At 5x6x3 is one of the larger farms here. Let's look at the blocks before we go in. So take a look, you'll see what you actually need for this farm. And now let's get into it. So I have the sign here, keep 6 blocks above ground, because the iron golem can't spawn anywhere else. We need him to spawn in the one place we need him. If you're unsure about different spawning techniques of iron golems, go check out my video where I explain all about iron farms. So let's get to this one. So we have our 3 beds, one stacked on top of the other, just so it can save a little bit of space. We've got our hopper minecart sitting on the foot of this bed with a slab on top and a piece of glass so they can't get up, as well as an iron golem can't spawn here. Now we have our zombie constantly scaring them. This was the only way I could figure out how to break the line of sight constantly and keep scaring them non-stop. And this is actually the only block the iron golem can spawn on. So once he spawns, let's actually grab an iron golem just to demonstrate what it would happen. If we spawn him here, he's not going to move because he can't see the zombie, so he's just going to stand there until he dies. And because he's not moving, this hopper minecart's going to pick up what he drops and get the iron and poppies. Now we got the little jumping pod from here from the zombie, a little bit of trapdoors just to keep him in place, and then the breaking line of sight using these slabs and keeping these guys in place with a trapdoor here and a trapdoor on the outer block. So it's not on top of the bed, it's one out. And then the blocks just to keep the water in. All right, and those are all of the tiny farms that I came up with. If you have any that you know of, let me know down in the comments. This video took a lot longer just because I kept optimizing it better and better every time I took a look at it, or I found new technology from someone else's build. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more episodes coming soon. Until next time.